In most part of the lessons we've been able to cover, and I've made you know that there are 4 basic criteria that the examiners will base on to assess you. But in this particular lesson, I'm going to focus on these 4 criteria and try to cover the topics that is most important of all, that is the assessment and marking criteria. This is because for you to get a very high score in the lesson, you need to understand what the examiners are thinking and what the examiners are looking from you when they actually assess your letter. Okay, so it's very important that you understand these marking criteria. So we'll be taking it one after the other: task achievement, coherence and cohesion, the LR, and then the GRA. We'll be looking at all of them specifically for you to understand them. If you don't know what the examiner is looking for, you won't be able to give them what they want. If you take the IELTS marking criteria and you look at it in general, it seems complicated at first sight, okay, and sometimes it look very overwhelming, so people don't really understand it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to simplify it for you so that you will know what you'll be looking for, and also we will base on the band score from 6 to 8 so that you would know what you need, because that's what most of the students want. Okay, and as you are here with my training, I want you to get not less than 7 band score. So you need to get a band score of 7 or higher in each one of them so that you have a very free mind to apply to anywhere you want to go. So we stated that the task achievement is that you are able to appropriately respond to tasks that has been given to you. Coherence and cohesion is how well you're able to present or structure your essay or letter, and also lexical resources about the vocabulary that you use. And finally, we said the grammatical range and accuracy is about your ability to use correct grammar and also to use them in a very good way and have a wide range of these grammar forms when it comes to writing your letter. So let's look at it one after the other. The first criteria we will look at is the task achievement, okay? And I've put a sample question here. We'll be looking at it so that we will know the things that we need to note for a high score in the task achievement, okay? And this one is a public band descriptor for task achievement when it comes to the general writing. So that is what you should note here. So we'll be reading through this starting from the band 6 to band 8, and then we'll be looking at it. We'll show you some of the simple things that you should do when it comes to the task achievement. Especially we will use this sample question to help us with it. So let's start from the band 6. When it comes to the task achievement, the examiner is looking at you whether you have been able to address the requirement of the task. So band 6 students, they will just address the requirement of the task and present an overview with information appropriately selected, okay, and also they might present and adequately highlight the key features or bullet points, but the details that they may provide might be irrelevant, inappropriate, or inaccurate. So whenever you provide, these are the bullet points, okay, these are the bullet points. They are the one in red. Let me just change this one to red. So these are the bullet points, okay, and for you to get a band 6, yes, you might have highlighted everything. You might be able to show that this is the first point for my paragraph, the second point for my paragraph, and the third point for my paragraph. But the details you are providing might be relevant. It might not actually be needed for the test that we are writing. So the examiner might see that they are irrelevant information, or they might be inappropriate. That means that they don't fit where you are trying to put them. Okay, so you must be very careful. And also it might be inaccurate. That means that the sentence that you are using, or maybe the words that you are using, are not right, or the knowledge you are trying to bring out are not accurate. Okay, so you might be able to understand. Maybe you try to apologize for the damage of the item. okay, but what you are writing does not show that you are apologizing for the damage to the item. So that is show that you are providing inaccurate information. Okay, so you should understand, and that will be for a band 6 student, but band 7 will cover the requirements of the tax. Look at this one, it shows that the band 6 student will address, but this one will cover. Don't mean that he will go further to give a well detailed explanation for the tax. You cover the requirement of the tax, 150 words, making sure that the tone of the writing is, the letter is right. You get it? You are giving your 150 words. You are making sure that you are covering the bullet points in here. Okay, so you are giving a very good one. When it comes to the general test, you will not be giving any trend. You are not checking trend, stages, or anything of that sort. So this second part, yeah, it's not important in the writing when it comes to the general tax. But what you need to do is that you have to tell the examiner that you have been able to state the purpose of your writing. Okay, so the purpose of your writing is very important. That's why this overview might also be important for you to write. So you need to state the purpose of the write-up, and then for you to get a band 7, you need to show a clear presentation of the key features, or clear presentation of the bullet points. Okay, we don't show features here, but clear presentation of the bullet points. You are giving a very clear presentation. You have highlighted it, you've been able to talk about it, but the examiner might see that you need to extend it very well. Okay, you might not have fully extended it. Okay, so you look at it and say, okay, I think you could have done better. So instead of giving you a band 8, he gives you a band 7. But for the band 8 student, he covered for all the requirements of the tax sufficiently, and also present, highlight, and illustrate the bullet point clearly and also appropriately. So what does all these things mean? What does all these things mean, and what are they looking for when you come to writing tax 1? Let's read the sample question. It states that you have borrowed something from your friend, and then it got damaged. So you borrowed something from a friend and it got damaged, and you're going to write a letter to your friend, and in the letter you're going to apologize for the damage of the item, and you're going to explain what happened and say how you are going to fix it. So how do you achieve this tax? For you to meet a tax of such a question, okay, when it comes to the tax achievement, first of all, you need to make sure that you have written over 150 words. Okay, you must, it is a must, it is a law. You have to make sure that you have written over 115 words, 50 words. Otherwise, you won't be able to achieve the tax. You won't get anything more than band 5. Okay, so you have to make sure that you have written more than 150 words when it comes to the writing tax 1. But don't write too much. Don't go and write 200 words, 300 words for this. You don't need it. At least, at most, 180 is okay. So between 150 to 180 words is fine. What you need is the quality of your essay and not the number of words you write. The second thing that you can do to achieve your tax is to make sure that you clearly state the reason why you are writing your letter. For instance, in this question, it tells us that you are apologizing. So in the first sentence of your question, you need to tell why you are writing the letter. So for instance, in this question, you will tell your friend that you are writing the letter to state, to apologize, okay, for the damage that you have caused to the thing that you actually borrowed. Okay, so you need to tell your friend that the item you borrowed got damaged and that you are trying to apologize to him or her. So you need to clearly state the reason why you are writing the letter, and that should be the first sentence. Okay, the first sentence of your writing. It should be found in the first sentence of your writing. Okay, so after stating the reason is one of the important things. Another thing that you should note for you to get a complete or to achieve a high score, you need to make sure you use the correct tone in your writing. That is, you have to let the examiner know that you understand that this letter is either a formal writing or an informal writing. Ask yourself, who am I writing to? Who am I writing to? This sample question tells us that you are writing to a friend. If it is a friend or a close relative, then you are going to use an informal tone. Okay, for any other recipient, you are going to use a formal tone. Don't mix the formal with the informal languages. Okay, so you should make sure that you state the right language for the right topic or the right question. For this sample question, since we are writing the letter to a friend, it means that we are going to use an informal tone. The last thing that you should do to achieve your task is to write about each of the 3 bullet points. We know that this is the third part of your question format. We have the first part, which is talking about the topic, the second part, which talks about who you are going to write to, and the third part, which talks about what you are going to write about or what the examiners are expecting from you to write. So you pick each of the bullet points and try to develop each of them. All right, so don't write about anything else. Don't write about anything else. Don't go and bring another topic in the letter. Just stick to the 3 topics that have been given to you and make sure you write about them, each one of them in each paragraph. So first paragraph, body paragraph will hold the apology for that damage. The second body paragraph will hold the explanation of what happened, and the third body paragraph will hold how you are going to fix it, and that is how you are going to achieve your task. Let's move on to the next criteria: coherence and cohesion. Coherence and cohesion. And as we have been stating, the coherence and cohesion talks about your ability to present a well-structured essay. Okay, and if you look at the public descriptors, this is what you see for the band 6, 7, and 8. In the band 6, they tells you that this type of student arrange the information and idea coherently and has a clear overall progression. So clear progression is really important. The person used cohesive devices effectively, but the cohesion within or between sentences might be faulty or robotic. Okay, so the person used one form of cohesion devices. Okay, so maybe and or that is the only linking words the person know. You don't know how to link words differently, but use one type of one form of cohesive devices for his idea in between sentences. And the person may always use referencing may not always use referencing in this state talks about preposition. So the person don't use preposition to refer clearly or appropriately. He does not use the preposition clearly, or sometimes the person will use it but doesn't use it appropriately, and if you do that, you'll be getting a band 6. When it comes to 7, the person who gets a band 7 is able to logically organize information or his idea properly. So a proper organization of your idea is very important for you to get a band 7 in your writing task. And there is a clear progression. So clear progression means that the idea of thought is not one way, or it's not the same idea that is speaking in each paragraph. The idea that the person is progressing, or the idea of thought, or the line of thought, it's actually building on each other. Okay, they are building on each other until the person concludes. So it tells you that the person is actually progressing clearly. And the person used different range of cohesive devices or cohesive devices appropriately throughout although there may be some underuse or overuse. So the person have been able to use cohesive devices, but sometimes they overuse them. There are some students who have that kind of linking words. They're able to show that they are developing the idea. They are linking one idea to another. They are linking sentences to each other properly, but they overuse them. They try to use a lot, and that will cause you to get a band 7, and they will actually not help you to get a band 8. So you should make sure that you use them properly. Or sometimes the person will use it, but the person don't use it more. It's an underuse, so the person underuse them. So there is a range that you should have a very good way of using the devices. When it comes to a band 8, the person is able to sequence his idea or information logically, is able to manage all aspects of cohesion very well, and is able to use paragraphing sufficiently and appropriately. All right, so what does this mean? What does it mean? How does this apply to us? And what will we do to make sure that we get a high score in coherence and cohesion? The first thing that you need to do is that make sure that your structure, the structure that you're going to use, is clear, because we want to make sure that our idea is progressed logically from one to another. We have to make sure that we get a very clear structure, and that is why we have been learning how to structure our essay using this 6-part structure that we have been learning. The first one is salutation. Paragraph 1 will be the purpose. Then we write about the first bullet point, second bullet point, third bullet point. Then we sign off. You can learn more about this lesson in how to structure your essay, and I think we have a full lesson on that. So the next thing that you should also note, aside having a clear structure, is to the next thing is to use paragraphs. Okay, use paragraphs. You don't have to write the main part of the letter in one block text. Okay, don't just write everything without paragraphing. Okay, separate it into paragraphs. Make sure they are separated into paragraph, and if you outline it properly like that, it will help you to get an ideal structure, and also it will help you to increase your coherence and cohesion. And I believe using this 6-part structure will also help you very well. Now the next one is about the use of cohesive devices, which is linking words effectively. As we studied, those who get high score in coherence and cohesion, mostly they use a range of cohesive devices appropriately. Okay, you should not overuse them, and you should not underuse them. So some of the there are a lot of linking devices or linking words, but I'm going to just give you some examples, like next. Okay, next. Okay, so first of all, next. Okay, and like because. So there are a lot of linking words, because, also, all right, and a lot. You can go and study them, and I believe it will help you. So be careful not to overuse them or underuse them. There is no number of linking words that the examiners have stated that, okay, use 9 linking words and you get band 9. No, don't think about that, but just assume that you are the one marking the work. How do you feel that the person is using the cohesive devices? Is he using it well? Is it appropriate? Is the number too much or too low? Okay, you should be checking that when you are writing your test, and you should be assessing yourself even after writing your test. The last thing that you should also be looking at to get a very good high score in your coherence cohesion is to use referencing. And in referencing, we mean something like pronouns. Okay, so pronouns like he, they, she, he, she, they, and the rest. All right, it, this, they, all of them refer to something else, okay, which has been previously mentioned in the test. Okay, so something like Kofi went to the market yesterday. Okay, you can say he went to the market the last time, or went to the market yesterday. All right, so instead of using Kofi again, we now use the pronoun he. Okay, and that is what we mean by using referencing. Okay, now let's move on to lexical resource. When it comes to the lexical resources, the examiners put you in a band 6 when you use an adequate range of vocabulary for the task. When we talk about adequate, we don't know the number which is adequate. Okay, so don't think that, okay, should I use 10 number of words or 5 number of words or 50 number of words? We don't know, but what we will tell you is that try as much as possible to have at least something to say differently without repeating too much. Okay, and you might also get band 6 when you attempt to use less common vocabulary but with some inaccuracies. So sometimes people try to use less common vocabularies, okay, extensive vocabularies, but sometimes it might be inaccurate. So he might use some of them, but it might be inaccurate. Some of them might be inaccurate, and if you get some inaccurate forms of less common vocabularies, then you are getting yourself into a band 6. So less common vocabularies are important, but make sure that you are using them correctly. The person will also make some errors in spellings and word formations, but they do not impede the communication. So the person might have some errors in spellings while he's trying to use some vocabularies. He might spell them wrongly, but if you figure it out, you might see that it's not actually affecting the way the person is talking. You might get it. Okay, so these ones you might get a band 6 if you do that. So make sure that you are using a very good you are spelling correctly and you are not making errors in your word formation. Now, for you to get a band 7, you have to also use sufficient range of vocabulary. So remember, the band 6, we call it adequate range, so it's adequate, but the person who is using who gets band 7 use sufficient range of vocabularies to allow some flexibility and precision. This is very important. He is flexible and precise. That is one thing that is very important when you are writing your essay or your letter. You need to be precise. By being precise, you need to also be flexible. That means that you are using the words in a way that you don't keep repeating yourself, but it's well understood. You understand? It's well understood. It's not about the big words. You are using different words to mean the same thing, but you are flexible in your writing, such that you are not repeating all the time. You are not repeating the same word all the time, or the formation that you are doing is not repetitive. The person used less common lexical items. So it comes here again, less common lexical item, which is less common vocabularies, with some awareness of style and collocations. So collocations about combination of words. We will learn about them. Okay, so collocations about combination of some words together to mean something. Okay, so you have collocation, you're using some styles in it, and it will help you to get a band 7. In a band 7, the person may produce occasional errors in word choices, spelling, and word formation. So the person in band 6 gets some inaccuracies, but with the band 7, he may get occasional errors. That means that it is not that much as it compares to the band 6. But when you do that, you might also be getting a band 7 and not band 8. But for you to get a band 8, you need to use a range of vocabulary fluently and flexibly to convey a precise meaning. So that means that you are being precise, but you're not repeating yourself that much. You are making use of accurate vocabularies, and that is very important. The person is skillful and uses uncommon lexical items again, but there may be occasional inaccuracies in word choices and collocations as well. The person may produce rare errors in spellings and word formation. So what does this mean to us, and what should we do to get a high score in our lexical resources? The first thing you should do is to make sure that you are accurate. Make sure that your word that you are writing is accurate. It is very accurate. You are not misspelling. Don't misspell. Okay, so check the spelling very well and make sure that the word you are writing is accurate. The second one is that the vocabulary that you are putting in there should be appropriate for the place. It should be contextual. The word you are using should fit the context of your writing, and the sentences that you are writing up, the vocabulary should make sure that it fits in properly. So aside the accuracy of your writing, aside the spelling that you are putting in correctly, you need to make sure that the vocabulary fits in very well. And that is where most students make a mistake on. They choose to use big words that they don't understand. For that reason, they try to put it or fit it in the sentences, and it's not appropriate. It is not fitting properly, and for that reason, you might be getting below a band 7, and you might be getting mostly a band 6 or even 5. So the next thing you should also note is the use of synonyms correctly. Okay, the use of synonyms correctly. When we talk about synonym, we mean different words that mean the same thing, and they are very important when you want to get a high score in your test. But you have to make sure that you know what you are writing, and you know that the synonym you are using is correct and it fits the sentence properly. When you have similar words, it doesn't mean that they have the same meaning. Okay, when you are using similar words, it doesn't mean they have the same meaning. Take note of that. The synonym that you choose must have the exact same meaning as the word that you are using. For instance, when we have something like people, all right, and you use something like Homo sapien, okay, yes, Homo sapien is the scientific format or whatever, but it doesn't fit the context of people. You can use something like individual to fit, or even better still, use the go into the specific kind of people you are talking about. It might be Italians, it might be English, it might be an African, it might be. So you can actually go into specifics and try to talk about the accurate person you want to mean. So when you talk about similar words, it doesn't mean the same thing. So make sure that you have the correct synonym in order to have a good replacement for the words. And it's very important that you use synonyms to replace the keywords in the questions. Okay, so if you get keywords in the question, take note of those keywords and get the good synonyms to also help you there. Because when you keep repeating the same words that you are using, you'll be losing marks. So make sure of that. The final thing you should check in your lexical resources about collocations. When we talk about collocations, we mean that you are combining two words or more words that sound correct to the native speaker when you use them. Okay, so collocations are very integral part of everyday English, and the examiner will be looking out for them. However, when you are writing with collocations, you should make sure that you use them carefully in order not to use them inaccurately. You have to make sure that the collocations you are using are accurate and the word combinations you are using is accurate. Okay, so for instance, we have something like, if you want to talk about how heavy the rain is, you can say heavy rain, right? But you cannot say that let me use this word, let me put it here. You can say heavy rain, but you can't say weighty rain, right? Weighty rain, though they are two combined words, but this one is incorrect. You can't say weighty rain. You can say fast food, but you can't say quick food for fast food. Okay, so you should make sure that you are using the right collocation for it. You can talk about keen interest for somebody who is having a lot of interest in a particular thing. Keen interest, but you can't say eager interest. So you should make sure that you are using the right word combination for a particular context, so that you don't get it inaccurate and also lose marks for that instance. what I'm trying to say here is that make sure that you use collocations that you know 100% before you start to use them. Now let's go to the last one, which will be grammatical range and accuracy. Let's use this sample question to explain what we need to do in the grammar in order to get a high score. Okay, so this is a sample question where it tells us about a friend that we took something from him and that it got damaged. Okay, and what we need to do is to write a letter to that friend and apologize for the damage of the item and explain what happened and say how we are going to fix it. When it comes to grammar, the first thing that you should notice about your accuracy, all right, your accuracy, using an accurate grammatical structure is very important. It is not quite necessary for you to use more complex grammatical structures, though you have to use some complex sentences as well, but you don't have to use it in every kind of sentence that you are going to write, because some of the students try to impress the examiner by doing that, but it's not important. We are checking every kind of structure: simple structure, simple sentence structures, complex sentence structures, compound, and the rest. So make sure that you are using them differently and you are using them correctly. That is the most important. So the accuracy of your sentence structure is very, very important. When you use correct and appropriate grammar in your test, then that is what is going to help you to get a high score. So make sure that you keep your structure simple and error free in order not to lose marks for inaccuracy. Now, the second thing that you need in the grammar is about the use of clue in the question. That's why we have this question here. The most important thing that you need to use is the correct verb tenses. All right, the correct verb tenses when it comes to the question, whether you're going to use simple, you're going to use present tense, past tense, future, or which one you ever use. You have to make sure that the correct verb tenses in the letters are very important and you must use them rightly. So you need to identify the tenses that is found in the bullet points, the 3 bullet points here. You need to make sure that you identify the tenses within the 3 bullet points, okay, and it has to correspond to the paragraphs of the letter. Okay, so let's demonstrate it using this sample question. So it tells here that we have borrowed something from our friend and it got damaged. Okay, so damaged shows that it's something that has happened. Okay, so it's here that it said that we have taken something from the friend and it has got damaged. That means that it's a past thing. We've already caused the harm. We borrowed, it damaged. Okay, so it's something that we have already done and it has already occurred. So it tells us that it has already happened. It's in the past. And here it tells us to write a letter to this friend, and in the letter we should apologize to the person for the damage of the item. So we are going to apologize. So the first bullet point uses a present tense. Okay, so we are going to use a present tense to make the apology. It tells you to apologize. So you're going to do it now. I'm going to apologize. So what you can write is that maybe you can state that I am sorry, right? I am sorry. So, I'm very sorry. Okay, I'm very sorry. So you're using the word I am, okay, and not I was, because it is present. So you can use the word I am very sorry. When you go to the second sentence structure, it tells us to explain what happened. Okay, happened shows that it's in the past. So what happened? So you're going to explain what happened, and because it has already happened, your point should be in the past. So you have to write in past tense to explain what happened to the item that you borrowed. So you can use something like, you can say something like, I was running, right? So I was running, maybe for the bus. I'm trying to write something down. Okay, so let's look at it. So I was running for the bus and tripped and dropped your book in the puddle. So maybe we borrowed a book from that friend. So in the second one, since the second bullet point is in the past tense, I use the word I was. Okay, not I am running, but I was. Okay, so I was running for the bus and I tripped, not tripped but tripped. Okay, to show a past tense, not drop but dropped as a past tense for it. Now the third bullet point shows that we should show how, or we should say how we are going to fix the issue. For that reason, it tells us that this is something in the future. This is what we are going to do. We have not done it yet. We are going to do it. So if we are going to do it, then our tenses should be in the future. Okay, so the examiner will be looking at all this, and because in the future I might use something like I will. All right, so maybe I'll replace it. I'll replace it as I know that you haven't read it yet. Okay, maybe it's a new book, so I'll replace it because I know that you've not read it yet. Okay, so I will. All right, so it shows something that I'm going to do in the future. So what we are trying to say here is that the clue in the question, especially in the bullet points, are very, very important, and you should note the tenses that they use to know the accurate tense for your write-up. Okay, and finally, what you need to also note is that you need to use the correct, you need to note the correct structures. Okay, let me even say something here. You have to also note the type, the correct type of letter you are writing, because this is to a friend. So as you can see, I didn't say I would, but I said I will. Okay, so it shows that I'm writing an informal letter. So there'll be some tones which shows informal tone. It shows that it's informal. So instead of using I will, I can even contract it and put in this way. So I apostrophe, right? So I, and then you go this way, I LL, right? So instead of saying I will, I can just write something like this, and then shows that I'm writing it to a friend. So who you are writing to should also show how you're going to put your grammars. Now the last thing is about the correct structure, and that is about the type of letter you are writing. We've noted that there are 7 question topics that we might get, so you should note them: the letter of request, letter of complaint, apology, explanation, resignation, invitation, and also arrangement. The reason is that each of these letters is slightly different when it comes to the grammar structure that you'll be using. So you should be sure of the type of writing that you are actually doing, so that you have the correct words for it. One thing about the letters is that it goes with culture. So for instance, the way Ghanaians apologize is different from the way people in Canada or UK apologize to others. Okay, so you have to think about how the culture of the people is. Maybe for instance, let me take it like in our setting, in Ghana, you know your neighbor, right? You know them, and they're like a second family to you, right? But when it comes to settings like in the UK or the US, you might not even know the person who is in the next on your next door. Okay, you don't actually know the person. You might not have even spoken to the person before. Okay, so the way you relate with the person who is in your place in Africa is different from the way people in the Europe also relate. So you have to think about that and see how well you also approach that thing. That's why I say that if you are writing something to a neighbor, just take it like you don't know the person. You've not spoken to the person before, or maybe you don't know them well, and you are trying to write a formal letter to the person. So your tone should be well, and also the structure that you are using should be also accurate. Okay, we'll go through everything. We'll go through the sample questions one after the other in other lessons, but this particular lesson will be of a lot of help. If you go through them again, try to learn on your own, try to go through the video lesson again and understand it on the writing criteria and the thing that you need in order to help you understand it properly before you start writing. All right, we'll meet in our next lesson.